Today, we're making Portuguese chicken, a curried coconut chicken bake unique to Macau. We start by marinating our chicken, usually thighs or drumsticks as they can take on a higher temperature, skin on for the yummy fat and texture, bone in today mostly because it's a local practice. Given the short cooking time, it wouldn't materially impact the flavors. Now, we front load salt with the whole dish in mind, aiming for about 0.6% of the combined ingredients, which works out to about 1.2% of the weight of our chicken thighs. This way, we speed up the salt magic, seasoning our bird evenly, improving both texture and moisture retention. Even 2 hours will make a difference, ideally overnight in the fridge. When you're ready to cook, hot pan with a thin layer of high spirit point neutral oil. Chicken goes in to sear. All the recipes call for soy sauce, turmeric, minced garlic, amongst other things, in the marination. Today, we're deliberately keeping our marination clean in order to take this to a higher temperature. This way, we first rapidly evaporate the surface moisture, particularly on the chicken skin. Then, we start to develop complex, meaty flavors via the Maillard reaction. Later on, nutty complexity thanks to caramelization. And to help us achieve those three wonderful things I just mentioned, it's important not to crowd the pan. Do them in batches if necessary, so they don't end up steaming themselves. Now, once everything is golden and before they turn brown, chicken comes out. We take the opportunity to skim off some of the excess fat, leaving a thin layer for flavor. Now, a deviation from the traditional recipes, coconut milk straight in. Why? To answer that, we need to talk about the evolution of this coconut-forward dish. In the early days, the source of creaminess and mild sweetness came mostly from evaporated milk because of availability and cost. If you're not familiar, think condensed milk without the sweetness. Coconut milk was scarce and, if available, would be used sparingly. The heavy lifting of coconut flavor came from desiccated coconut. As the dish slowly evolved and ingredients became readily available, coconut milk became the norm to get the most out of this wonderful ingredient. And to make it rich but not heavy, we utilize the Southeast Asian technique of splitting it. Through gentle boiling, we evaporate all the water content of our milk, breaking the emulsion, giving us on one hand coconut oil, which will become our cooking oil, reducing the total amount of fat, making our dish less heavy. On the other hand, we have the coconut solids, which we're gently toasting, making our dish rich with coconut flavors. Once you start to hear the sizzle and before the full split, sliced onion goes in. In many Asian cuisines, onion is less of an aromatic vegetable, but more of an ingredient that you consume, which is why we kept it relatively chunky. Now, the actual aromatics, grated ginger, which brings some zesty freshness and some mild heat. Crushed garlic, add some savory depth, and provide some caramelized sweetness later. Optional, Portuguese chouriço, eloquently coined Portuguese lapchang by the Macanese. This will give us some color, texture, and smoky paprika spice. And with the chorizo, you can really see the oil splitting. Now, the spices. In the early days, some restaurants would use just turmeric for the color. Some would use the Anglo-Indian variation of curry powder. It's by all accounts a very mild dish. What you choose to use is up to you. Now, the candidates. The only mandatory, turmeric for color and a bit of earthiness, coriander for some citrusy freshness to really balance the dish, cumin for some warmth and earthy bitterness, fenugreek, seeds, not leaves, for some maple-like notes, black pepper for some sharper heat, dried ginger for some warmth, cinnamon for some woody sweetness, cloves for a bit more medicinal-like sweetness, and for some sharper heat, Kashmiri chili powder. We lower the heat slightly, our spice mix goes into bloom. Now potato goes in to stain the surface. The recipe often calls for parboiled or fried potatoes. Today we keep it one pot, just cut them smaller, and traditionally you would use waxy potatoes to maintain their shapes. Now we start to incorporate the rest of our coconut milk. And you can use a combination of milk and water to make it as thick, as rich as you like. Chicken back in. Resting juices. We top up with a bit more water or stock to almost cover everything. And we let this simmer for 5 minutes just to get a head start. Stove off. Optional black olives for texture and freshness. Now, during the evaporated milk era, the secret ingredient for gloss and body was egg yolk. With coconut milk, we already have the richness and texture. So instead, we're going to use it to help us form our beautiful golden crust. We mix, thin with a tiny bit more coconut milk. Generously brush a layer on top of everything. And it's important to do this with the stove off so they don't curdle. Now to further enhance our crust and provide texture, dried shaved coconut, reinforcing once again the coconut goodness of this dish. 180 degrees Celsius, about 30 minutes. I mean, just look at that. Oh. More of a bake and less of a stew compared to the classic recipes, but as a happy byproduct, we have beautiful crispy skin. If you want to go more old school, all we need to do is push and baste. And suddenly, the classic color is back. Either way, you get an incredible coconut and chicken stew. And that's thank you very much, Macau.